call the meeting to order 7:33 on the August 18th. Our first, we have a call to order. I think Jerry C. knows everyone who's here. The first thing we have to do is our approval of the minutes from our last meeting was, I believe, on February 24th, 2022. At least in my notes. So guess I need a request to approve the minutes of the last meeting from the 24th.
So moved.
Second. Danny Lee.
Second. Yep.
Any discussion on those minutes? All good? All right. All in favor of those minutes? Raise your hand. Or say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, doke. Our next order is our public comment. I don't think we have anyone who's on that is not part of the committee, so we go from there. So next is our new business to discuss the changes of the committee. I think what we had talked about is that Chad Frost would step off of the committee due to his involvement in the project itself. We would put on the committee Bruce Wagner, who is now available to us.
Close.
Bruce Flax.
Bruce Flax, yes.
Name's not up there.
Yeah. So Bruce isn't here tonight. He's actually got a conflict, but
Right. Sorry, I
that's
apologize.
correct. So Bruce Flax was formerly a member of the RTM. He's now he now works at the Greater Mystic Chamber, but he lives in Mystic and he's interested. And also with Chad, I guess I would just clarify, instead of becoming a non-member of the committee, I would suggest that Chad stay on as an ex officio member, like the town councilors and town staff and whatnot. I think having him in these meetings is important, and certainly a benefit to the group. So if he's willing to stay on as ex officio, I'd say, well, let's keep him here. Just can't vote.
I love it. I think I think he's a big asset to us.
And I guess the other thing, Frank, I would say is that for those of you who didn't hear Danny earlier, there's a new president of the Fitch Booster Club, Riz Sharif. And Danny and Mark or whoever, did you talk to him about being on the committee? And
I did.
Okay.
And he said he would attend the next meeting. He was still at the
Okay.
school when I left.
So I guess, the question there is, do you want to add another member to the committee? I presume he's a resident of the town and doesn't hold an official position in town government or in school administration or something like that. So he could potentially be eligible as a member of the committee. The good and bad with doing that would be it would raise the number of potential voting members to 6. To kind of formally act on anything, it would, I guess it would be a majority of those present. But if you had all 6 present, you'd need 4 out of 6 people to approve of.
Could he just be a
moving
guest
forward.
until he arrives in the first meeting, and then we can describe to him the responsibilities to see if it's something that he would like to entertain?
Okay. All right.
I'm just thinking
Danny,
of the future too.
Danny, I
Go
would
ahead.
ask you, what would you like to do going forward?
I'm just when I joined this committee, I didn't know it was going to be X number of years. I thought we do in my 2-year term at the high school. I thought that we would be able to get things moving forward and the committee would not be needed anymore. So I'm just thinking that I don't know how many more years, but I'm thinking if I get him involved, maybe he would take my place at some point.
Okay.
That's all. If it's another year, but if it's going to be like 2-3 more years, then I'm thinking, I don't know, I would stay on that many more years.
But for now, you think you'd like to stay on for now?
Yeah, I would love to see the ball rolling before, we bring someone else in that doesn't know the background history. But, I just thinking long term, maybe just have him as a guest and then, it depends how we move along. It seems like the town is really dragging. So I thought this might be something that's could be multiple more years. Hopefully not, but that's my concern.
So Frank, just to kind of act on that, I think we probably should have some kind of formal action, either by consensus or by a motion, to kind of approve those changes to the membership of the task force. I guess it would be just trading Chad for Bruce Flax, I think would be the.
Great. So I guess we'll do it formally. I would think that would be the right thing to do. And so a motion to, if anyone has a motion to add Bruce Flax as a member, and Chad Frost would go to, get the exfasciato portion. So a member, but not a voting member.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Danny Lee. A second?
Bruce Wagner, I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay. All hands a vote. All hands.
So I think on this one, I think the only votes are going to count are Danny, Bruce, and Frank.
I'm an aye. Danny and Bruce.
Aye.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. All right. And I guess now, Frank, I would also just announce that if you haven't noticed, my boss, at least on my screen, is right below me. So this will be my last probably Athletic Fields Task Force meeting. I'm moving to East Lyme beginning at the beginning of September. So, from the department standpoint, Mark is here right now, but, and it may be him or somebody else who participates from a staff standpoint. I would expect that, when my replacement is hired and on board, you might see a different face here other than Mark. But I don't know, Mark, did you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, just for the interim, like Jerry said, I'll be taking over. And Danny, I hope that things start to accelerate, especially with the presentation that I think Kenton Frost and Planning and Recreation is going to be making to the council at some point in the near future. And hopefully that will spark the council to take action, because it certainly has been a while. And I know, Jerry has expressed to me, concern that, all the meetings and the work that you guys have put in over the last couple of years, he was afraid that momentum was going to drop off. But I'm pleased to see that everybody is still committed to this. And you're right, it has been a long process, but if you work in local government, this is kind of the pace that things move at. So we are moving forward, and like I said, hopefully within the next month or so, and maybe Chad can enlighten us on a little bit on when we might be, when they might be going to the council.
Yeah, you want me to jump in now?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So the update on the Clodchester study is we've completed the in-person one. I think some people were there for that. It was very well attended. We got a lot of good feedback. We then put everything up online. It was through the Groton's website, the Explore More, to be able to do basically much of the same things that we did in person, do those online. All that closed a few weeks ago. We got all that data back from town planning staff. We've been crunching through a lot of the numbers over the last couple of weeks, and we have a meeting set up with planning staff next week, and Mark will be there as well to go through that initial debriefing of what we believe all that data means. And there were some surprises, I'll say, that, I'll just let a little bit out of the bag, that swimming pools, and a large swim center with a pool and additional equipment was one of the very high priorities. That has been, I say it's surprising, but it's been on the list that the public has been asking for over a decade. So it really shouldn't be that surprising. But it was very highly ranked, both in the in-person and online scenarios. The athletics fields still were up there quite high. There was definitely some people that knew it. We did get some feedback. There were a few comments both in public and online of just people that still don't understand the need, right? And that's going to happen because you have to be kind of involved in athletics and especially field sports to really understand the need sometimes, because the general public might drive by and see aquatic planes and think that that's fantastic. But as we've all known and experienced, the town definitely needs more than that. So that indicates to us that we still need to keep getting the word out to the town that there is the need, and not just assume because we've all talked about it now for a couple of years that everybody is on that same page. But we'll be going through those, the full rankings next week. What that does then is it gives us that program of what we're going to be designing to fit both on Clodchester property, as well as then looking at some of the other adjoining parcels around it. If all of the program elements can't fit on Clodchester, we'll be looking for surrounding properties and how do we solve those issues. We expect that to take a couple more weeks, and then we come back and again have a staff level review, and then present all of that to the council for their hopefully adoption, and as a way forward to be able to say, this is the program items that we think, this is what we want to do with this piece of property moving forward. So to get on the council agenda, I'd say it's probably 2 months, would be a very optimistic thing. And I have no idea what their agenda looks like. We haven't talked to anybody yet, but I just know there's enough process internally before we're going to be ready that it's probably in that 2-month time frame. So that's my quick summary. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I guess I just have a comment to Mark and Jerry. And so 2 years ago when we started this task force, with the directed from the town council, and I feel like I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say the word completed the task, because it depends what you defined as the task. But if the task was to provide the information going through the users of the facilities, and all the people we've spoken to over the last 2 years, what do you think the focus, or what is the goal? So we provided that information. We've kind of got stuck because of the Clodchester part of the plan. But if we've provided the information, or we provided what we feel is the next steps to help us, what would be the goal? What is like our next goal of this committee? To help push it? Is it to see what happens as we get through the next few months, and it's the results are out there? So okay, so now how do we shimmy left or right? I certainly think the task force is very, what we've done, we may not be the knowledge experts, but the people we've gone to are, and we know what we need. So as the town begins to tell us or what they want, the other folks outside of our realm, is our committee part of, or the task forces to kind of provide direction or what we can do to help? I mean, what would be our new goal, if you would, or our new commitment?
So Frank, I guess, and pardon me, Mark, for jumping in, but I think the next thing that this task force has on its agenda is actually spending money. We have a CIP project from last year that we have approved for $200 and something thousand to design fields at Fitch High School, Sutton Park, and Claude Chester. And we have yet to, the town has yet to issue an RFP or an RFQ or whatever they want to do to identify a firm or firms to do that work. And I would see the members of this task force working, well, actually, first of all, being a part of the selection process for identifying who the town hires, or recommending or, having some input at some level on who the town hires to do that work. And then once that firm is hired, I would see the members of this task force providing input to kind of do those things. That we're the CIP is to do some studies, permitting, and some conceptual designs for those three areas. And we're the ones who came up with the idea of adding, the softball field at the high school. We're the ones that came up with the idea of adding the, redoing the stadium into a championship kind of field, and adding other rectangles at the high school, and, switching around, Sutton Park to allow for high school softball and baseball, and doing the community-based fields at Claude Chester. So, as the firm is designing that stuff conceptually, I think our input is valuable. So at that point, I would hope that members of this committee would be around while that work is being done. And then once those beautiful drawings come out and is presented to the council and the RTM and the public, that we can, then go into advocacy mode where we say, look, everybody, we've studied this for umpteen years. We've heard from everybody. We've been directed by the council to do this. We've done it. And here are the results, and please vote yes. So I guess that's what I would see as, the next year, or, Danny, I hope that's not more, but I think that's the foreseeable future for this group. And I would hope that, within, a couple of months here, hopefully even by the end of the year, we could be moving forward with an RFP once there's some clarity on Claude Chester. If the council decides that it is an appropriate place to put fields, and that's the highest and best community use for that property, then we include it in the RFP. And then if they say there's another use, for a community pool or some other type of use that came out, then I think, the group has to make a decision. Do we continue to advocate for that, or do we, cut bait and try to move forward with the high school and the Sutton Park properties? So, I mean, that's really, I think, it. Mark, did you have anything to kind of add to that? Mark Berry, I guess.
Yeah, Jerry, I was just going to say, no matter what the council decides, and you kind of hit on it, whether moving forward includes Claude Chester or doesn't, this group is going to move the field initiative forward, and maybe that's only Sutton Park and the high school, but whether it's 3 different parcels or 4 parcels or 2 parcels, it's definitely moving forward. If the council says, no, we decided we want to put another strip mall in town, then we'll just move forward with Sutton and the high school. So, yeah, it's moving forward.
No, it's kind of, I was just having the same exact thought. I'm like, at some point in time, the council and the public will kind of make that decision as far as Claude Chester, and then I think we zag left or right and go from there, because
Yeah.
we can still do that. I'm
I
with you.
think just to clarify there, Frank, the public, isn't really, well, I guess their portion of being in the mix is drawing to a close on, that's the whole purpose for what the planning department and Kent Frost did with that, visioning exercise, the public visioning exercise for Claude Chester, to hear what did people want to say. And the results are going to be what the results are. It's going to be presented to the council, and the council will, I think, decide what, based on the information that was received, what direction they want to go. So I don't think that's going to go back to the public again and say, hey, everybody, here's what we heard, and now you get to vote again. I mean, that could just kind of go on forever.
Right.
That kind of going back to the public. So.
Any other discussion? I did see that on my screen that Council Franco has joined us. I don't recognize the other number. I'm sorry if it wasn't.
Yeah, the phone number is Tara Hannaford from Shoreline Sport and Social Club.
That's right. She was on there before. I apologize. Does anyone else have anything else to add to our discussion on kind of where we are and what we're going forward?
Frank, one thing if I could, oh, there we go. I'll shut up for a minute because Councilor Franco is raising her hand.
I see that. Councilor Franco, you.
Yes, thank you. So my question is, the Ackley property seems to already be taken or under contract. And if we put sports fields at Claude Chester, and then there's still a need for more sports fields, are we going to look at acquiring other properties? Are you looking at any other properties?
I would say we did not do that. We talked about others. We talked about, well, at the time, for instance, Pleasant Valley Road, that school was under contract, which I believe now it isn't. I mean, I can't say I'm the most up-to-date person, but I don't believe it is. We talked about the golf course, right? I mean, we could put everything at the golf course, for crying out loud. It stops a lot of the things that we wanted to do and the cohesiveness with the high school, but you could put 14 fields there, for crying out loud. It's ginormous. But that we did talk about them, but at the time like I said, one was under contract, one was lots of money. And so, yeah, I think we would absolutely be open, because we would have to. I don't think there would be other option but to look at other places that are out there.
And are we still going forward with the mentality of doing a referendum on this after the plan is all in place? As one big, instead of piecemealing it?
Right, absolutely. I think that was absolutely our plan, because I think the number is going to be to the fact that you're going to have to do that, right? Because over 40 or 50 years, we've learned that piecemealing doesn't work. Again, I played on that football field, and that was 1979.
Okay.
So, right, that's not
And
working.
Rachel, we also talked about that in terms of like getting state funding potentially to do some of the work, and asking once and getting our state legislators on board for making that request was better to do it one time rather than coming back again and again at smaller pieces. But yeah, I guess the final decision on whether that goes to referendum or the town decides to do it out of operational budget on any given year in a CIP project or whatever. I mean, all those questions are really kind of beyond the scope of this task force. But I think, if the task force had a consensus on that, I think most members, and I think we did kind of discuss that at length at one time, that, a bond referendum for Fields was something that we wanted, and to kind of take a bite at that state funding, piece there was really what people had in mind.
Yeah, I had a problem with my audio earlier, so I heard some of what you were talking about. And I do see people on social media now speaking up saying, no, we do need fields. When people are like, oh, we're fine with fields, and they're sharing the information from the Athletic Fields Task Force. And even what we're doing at Fitch Middle, people are asking what's going on over there. And then when they find out that they're resurfacing and we're putting in a better field, basically I'm just seeing and I'm hearing positive comments. So I think this is where we have to just keep pushing, like there is a need, and educating the community as we're going about, the process. So how far out are we looking here? Depending on what the council wants to do, if they decide whatever at Claude Chester, how far out are we to actually doing, shovel and ground, do you think?
I think that the answer to that question is probably Chad is probably the best one that can answer that. But also, Frank, I'll just call to your mind or point out that Bruce Wagner has his hand up. So I don't know how you want to handle that.
Chad, why don't you answer if you can?
Well, I give you my best guess. I mean, normally we have the referendums in November. You could do it. You could schedule a special one. That's a council prerogative. There's no way we'll be ready for a November referendum this year, just from an education, from getting the data ready. So if it was to be a November referendum, it would be basically a year from now, would be my expectation. And then hopefully construction starting, within, maybe it's the next season, the spring after that, and then wrapping up within a year or so like that. So that would be, from where we're sitting right now, that would be my kind of optimistic schedule, which probably doesn't go well with Danny's optimistic schedule wanting to be done in 6 months, but that's how I would envision it.
Yeah, because I do know the council, I've asked the question on what our ability to bond is. And we are pretty tight with where we are at bonding because we've done the 3 schools. And it's sort of like our debt ratio of what we're allowed to have in bonding and debt. We're just about maxed out. So I think maybe it might be 2 years or so. I mean, even if we did the referendum, it doesn't mean we have to bond right away, because that does take time as well. But we could plan for the future. But even if it might take a couple referendums to get through, because sometimes that happens. So my thought is maybe we can go forward with the referendums regardless of where we are, our abilities to bond at that moment.
Yep. And I would say that'd be something that, when we get to that point, when we say this is the project, right? When the council has agreed that whatever it is, however many fields is going to be the project, and we have an idea of what that money value is going to be, then we have that, discussion with the budget office and look at what the total bonding is, what's available and how it gets phased out, and what other, I think the last thing I remember seeing is I think we finished all the school, closed out the bonds. We were a little bit behind, if I remember right. We didn't have to bond quite as much as we thought we were going to, which left a little bit of wiggle room, but we are very tight. But if it's 2 years out from when we bond, we will have paid off 2 years of debt at that point. So
Right.
in a perfect world, that might work out.
All right. Thank you.
Just a
Bruce, I know
reminder, Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce, did you want to add? I'm sorry.
So I had a quick question that Rachel brought up was at Fitch Middle School, Groton Community Center, was that work planned prior to our task force being put into place? And was that a missed opportunity for us? Is it's being resurfaced? I just wasn't sure if that was something we could have had a hand in, or I mean, it's been months, so I don't know if we've even talked about that prior to.
Actually, Bruce, it is, one of our recommendations from the task force was to upgrade the fields at the Groton Community Center. So this is it's actually a small piece, kind of a little standalone project that was funded in the capital improvement operating budget. So yeah, that absolutely is a piece that this task force identified early on, and it's coming to fruition. So if everything was moving that fast, I guess we'd all be happy. But
Yeah.
it'll be, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think fall 23 before that field is kind of ready for playing.
Yes, that's correct. That's the current schedule. Once the topsoil gets put down, we've contracted out an irrigation company. They're going to come in, put in the irrigation, and then we will be seeding, and expect that it will take a year before the field's ready to play.
And can you mentioned to me also, Mark, about the ball field there too?
Right, yeah, so there is a T-ball field underneath that huge pile of dust / soil. I don't know if anyone's driven by when those guys are out, and oh my gosh, it looks like the Midwest, I think in the 30s or 40s or whenever that the Dust Bowl went through. But underneath, once that all of that, they're taking that big pile, they're running it through a sifter, getting out all the debris. And once that's done, they're going to, whatever's left, they're going to clear out and actually go below grade where the T-ball field is, and the Parks Division is going to put in not crushed stone, stone dust, or not stone dust, clay, and make improvements to that field while we have that opportunity. So come springtime, there will be a nice T-ball field in that location.
Mark, just make me smarter. Was that the larger field or the one tucked behind the corner?
No, I guess that would be the larger field, not the one that wraps
Okay.
all the way around. Yeah.
Okay. Good. No, we did talk about it. So and Mark Romano, you had talked some time earlier about things that they wanted to do at the high school. What has happened there? I'm just kind of getting up to date. Like, what have they done anything? I know they had talked about it, and apparently there was some funding at some point in time. Anything?
So as of right now, they're just waiting. I'm sorry about that. They're waiting to install the lights on the turf field at the middle school. I believe last I had heard, which was maybe a week or two ago, they're ordering the parts for the lights. But supposedly that would be starting sometime this fall. And then that's pretty much the end of that. I think what have they had planned for that field as of right now. Yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Other than that, there really has been no other discussion of anything else going on here at the high school or the middle school.
Mark, I thought they were hiring an architect to look at the field house, like a potential redesign or expansion or locker room or.
Yeah, no, they did. That was the last correspondence we had with that was probably last January. So we haven't heard any more information about that. So yeah, I don't even know where we're at with that one. But yeah, other than that, I guess anything current, that's the latest. And obviously with the fall season and multiple teams playing on that turf field, it's difficult without lights for sure, especially scheduling wise. So the quicker that goes up, the better. And again, but that just proves our point in, the need of the stadium down there needing us turfing that and so on and so forth. So.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else have anything to add while we're catching up? Coach Costa is relatively quiet.
Sitting next to Mark.
The track just keeps getting more worn every
Every lap.
every year. And eventually it's going to start failing. So that's about all I can add. The problems have not gone away at the high school. They're still there and still as blatant as they were when we began.
Gotcha.
Mark and Rich, should the task force make a better push or put pressure on the school board? I'm just wondering, how can the task force help with Fitch's issues? And we've identified them. We identified what we thought the fixes were. I feel on some level, that maybe there's a little bit of the school board's giving us, the task force, the space to kind of come up with the solution. But I'm wondering, should there be more communication or more discussion back and forth to make sure that, those issues, if there's the ability to, I know they've thrown that couple $100,000 at the football field every year in the budget cycle, and so I'm just wondering how we get them on board and working with us as opposed to maybe waiting for us to come up with a solution for them. Is that a fair question?
I would say, maybe having a meeting or setting something up with them just to educate them more so as to, where we're at and what we've come up with as a task force. Just so, they are aware, but I think it wouldn't hurt to, because I know there's some, perceptions like, waiting on the Board of Ed for this or the Board of Ed's. So I think for everybody to be on the same page, I think maybe set something up where we can all sit down and kind of go over what the needs are and what we've come up with and then kind of go from there. But I think that would be important, yes.
Frank, you've got Counselor Franco again.
Sorry, I put my head down.
I
Please.
believe the council had approved CIP money for the football field up at the high school as well. And I'm having some issues on how to handle some of these things, because if we're going to redo the area, and they were talking about doing the track, the football field, maybe widening things and maybe having a big grand plan. Well, should we still be spending money investing in this right now? I just don't know what the right way forward is. And I brought that up, and I don't even think I wanted to wait until we had a plan before I invested more money into it. Cause it was substantial. So these are some of the questions, like how, like we did the tennis courts and then come to find out, it seems like we need more tennis courts. So, so I don't even know what the best route forward is on some of this and how long it's going to take. So I don't know how to invest in this.
So Rachel, we did have, I guess it was, I don't remember which meeting exactly, but one of the recent meetings we had, the task force was presented with the possibility of redoing the field house with ARPA money or something like that. They had that idea. And we at the time made the point that, whatever is going to happen there, we need to coordinate. And going back to, Bruce's kind of question about what's going on at the community center, there were things in the recommendations that we made that that we can do that don't kind of impact the overall big plan, I guess. Like the work at the community center is kind of a little one-off project that can be done. And if you look at the high school, there's a smaller one-off project just with the baseball field. Everybody thought the baseball field was in great shape because of the money that was put into it with the press box and the bleachers and the whatnot. But it turns out that there's some significant field issues up there too that were never addressed. So if we were to work, and the Board of Ed wanted to, had a smaller pot of money and put it into something like that, that would, help. I think those are kinds of things that we can do. But yeah, I don't think you want to kind of go on and replace the track around the field and then do the inside of the field with turf and the bleachers and the, whatever else, I mean, you just have to do those things at the same time. So, to a degree, I agree with you for the bigger projects, but I think there are smaller things on the outside that we can possibly advocate with the Board of Ed to get done. And Mark talking about what they're talking about doing at the middle school it could be included in that. I don't know how many people have been up there for soccer games or whatnot, but balls fly over the fences. There aren't any big nets in back of the fences to keep the lacrosse balls or the soccer balls in there. We put lights up there. There's no scoreboard. There's limited seating. There's there's no restrooms. I mean, there's all kinds of little pieces that we've said are needed at these facilities that we can do that, that's not going to impact a big bond referendum for really doing the fields. It's you could look at those as one-off projects. So I guess that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question there, though.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just hard when the Board of Ed comes and says, no, we really need the field done and we want this money now. But I'm like, well, we're working on a plan. And they're like, yeah, but kids are going to get hurt. And then I'm like, but what do you do? So it's sort of a tough one. And then another question I have is like at Claude Chester, if you're going to put in rectangle fields, is there still room in that area to have, and this might be for Mr. Ken, is there still room to have a town green with rectangle fields? Because I've always been told that Quantic Plains, you really don't let everybody out on the fields because we don't want to ruin them, because these are our only good fields. So we want to protect them. But if we had more fields, maybe we could like use those fields as overflow if we were having a town green event, and then we could use like rectangles in the back as overflow for things. And I was just wondering if they both could fit. Because I mean, I am hearing a lot of wanting a town green, and with the Ackley property being swept up, there's a lot less land.
So what I got a couple partial answers there is what I would say. First, in both the in-person survey and the online survey, town green actually ranked pretty low, right? We're still tallying it all. It's not out there publicly, but I'll just let based on what I had heard from all those town council meetings when people kept showing up saying we want a town green, I was surprised at how low it ranked in that assessment. So that's one. Two, as we've talked about, Park and Rec had to be very protective of Quantic Plains because it was their only asset, and it was also the high school's only asset from a athletic field perspective, right? All up until the middle school was done, every single high school sports field played down there and every single youth played down there. So they had to be very protective of how much use that field got, and community events and trampoline and tents and all that sort of stuff. And so there were some people that I think they were told no, they couldn't be there for some events. And that was the reason. As we add fields and as a high school can take care of itself, the pressure on those fields goes down, the ability to have more community events goes up. And you could, I think a town green and an athletic field can be very symbiotic, right? You should be able to do a big community event out there. You might not want to have a car show and drive cars all over it, but you can have, bands and events and fairs and things like that that really do bring community out to great events. So I think there's a way to make it not an isolated town green and an isolated athletic field, but maybe a way to blend those together and make it a beautiful community asset for everybody to enjoy and not put everybody in little silos. So that would be how I'd answer that issue, Claude Chester specifically, and we'll have plans in the next couple of weeks. We'll have plans to hopefully be able to show all that. And then I just to go back to your funding and the school board and all that sort of stuff, I remember watching that town council meeting when they came to you asking, and I remember watching you say, oh, hold on, we have a plan. Why are we spending this money? And they kept advocating, it's a safety thing. We need to do the fields. And I get it. And that was the frustration I had. I think that you probably had as a counselor. I was watching going, that's where I would love to see how we can better jive together to make sure that when they put their budgets together and they're advocating for an improvement, it aligns with the improvements that we're advocating for as well. And we don't spend good money before bad.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No?
Before we end the meeting, my husband
ahead.
wants to know, the Little League fields behind Fitch Middle, well, you're saying they're both going to be okay for the spring. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say both. Right now, we're focused on the field closest to the multipurpose field that's being reconstructed. Once that topsoil has been filtered and everything's extracted, we're actually, like I said, going to be going below grade and putting in a clay, which is what should be in the infield. And so that field will be in much better shape come springtime.
And what do you think the ETA on the other field might be?
We haven't seen a high level of requests and use on that field, so it hasn't really been a high priority. Now, if that's going to change, then certainly our focus and resources would increase if we're seeing a lot more requests to use that field.
Hey, guys, Rich and I got to get off the meeting. We apologize. They're shutting the building, so we got to go.
Okay.
But Jerry, I just wanted to thank you for all your support and everything you've done. I know, like you said, this is your last meeting, so thanks for everything and best of luck in your new chapter.
Thank you.
I ditto that, Jerry. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next meeting should be the 3rd, which would be the 15th of September for our next scheduled meeting. I guess we can talk to Mark between now and then, and I mean, if we're still at status quo, we can decide what we want to do as a committee, as the task force. If it what we want to do. I'm sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
Just wanted to take advantage of having Mark and Jerry both here, and Dave Franco raised a great question about the fields. We're having I'm on the board for Mystic Little League, as Dave is the president of Groton Little League. We're having an issue, terribly safety issue, with the field that we use at SB Butler. So I don't know, is that a Board of Ed field now, or is that going to Groton Parks and Rec? Just wanted to know who we should call to have that maintained.
Yeah, that now is our responsibility. And yes, there's work to be done on that field.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should reach out to us so that we can, have a discussion about what exactly needs to be done. But I also know that, we're being asked to make improvements and changes to other fields too. And, it's a matter of how many resources we have to try to address all of these different needs.
I understand that. I wasn't sure if that was something that we can have volunteers help on that field, just to alleviate any funding from Groton town.
Yeah, that's certainly something we could discuss. The town, we do utilize volunteers for on a number of different projects. There are limitations to what volunteers can do. So
Don't bring my backhoe.
What's that?
No, I'm kidding. I said, don't bring my backhoe.
Yeah, I can't.
No,
I'm
I'm
sorry, I
kidding.
can't hear you.
I'll get with you. I know this is not the correct forum to do it. So if I can, I'd just like to get with you, and
Sure.
And if I could pull in Dave Franco into that conversation too.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
All right, great.
So
Yeah.
Yes, Bruce, and I don't know if Dave is listening on Rachel's thing either, but yeah, the fields at the two elementary schools at Claude Chester and SB Butler, and you could even put in the Groton Community Center on that. Those fields were never developed as athletic fields. They're kind of just, out in the playground, some spaces that they put up a backstop and some bases and called that a field. And they've never been maintained in a way that kind of makes them really good for being playable. And Mark is right. It does take resources to maintain those in a way that's, safe and good for kids to play on, frankly. Yeah. And we've got those resources. So yeah, now that they're under Park and Rec control, maybe we can do more. And again, speaking in those smaller type bits and pieces, not part of the bigger project, but, small CIP projects that can be done, with a lot of in-house stuff off season, or, with the, like, kind of what's going on at the community center with the public works guys down there doing the big earth moving and, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that help with getting little smaller CIPs done for those properties that are being turned over. Parks operation is constantly, the inventory of properties that they maintain is constantly growing. So, and even if something happens at Claude Chester or Sutton Park and these things, the fact of the matter is the town is going to have to address how to maintain those properties and keep them in that condition moving forward. And that's a real issue as well. So, getting the fields is one thing, keeping them up to date is another. So I would appreciate any and all help doing those things.
And the other issue that in regards to SB Butler is at some point, I believe the council is going to be making a decision on the use of that property. So, before, and Councilor Franco talked about having a plan, I think before we make a big investment in fixing that field, and then the decision's made to, whatever decision is made, we need to make sure that fixing those fields fits into the plan for that property. And I don't think there's been any discussion yet, but at some point, the council, I think, is going to need to decide the best use of that property. And I would kind of like to know that before we make big investments in a field and then come to find out that it's no longer going to be a field, it's going to be something else.
Thanks, all. Okay, so, and I would just like to close by also thanking Jerry for the last couple of years. It's been enlightening. I've learned a lot. Rachel doesn't make fun of me as much as she used to, so I must be getting better. But I'd like to thank you, Jerry, for kind of leading the charge and helping me immensely. So thank you very much and good luck. So with that said, I guess we could probably, so again, the next meeting will be the 15th. I will be on the road, but I think I would be able to probably join just like I am now. I'll be in North Carolina at my mother's, but I think that I could do this. So I think it works. So, and other than that, so I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, can I make a motion? I think am I an alternate or am I a member?
I don't think it's a substantive
right.
vote, so I think you're okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bruce. All in favor? Sorry, I forgot that part.
Aye.
A lot of ayes, no nays? You sure? All right, thank you, everybody, and we'll get together again on September 15th.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jerry.
all.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right.
Thanks, Jerry. Good luck.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
Jerry.
Best wishes.
Bye-bye.
East line.